Music. Easily one of the few forms of art that has a universal language, allowing for anyone to express their feelings without needing to understand literal meaning. I mean, most of us don't speak Japanese, but I think we know a banger opening when we hear one. Which means a story of a socially awkward guitar player learning to play in a band for the first time is a perfect anime story to connect with an audience. Which is where we get the surprise hit of the fall season in an anime which I think should at least enter into the conversation of anime of the year. Bocce The Rock. Our pink-haired protagonist, Hitori Goto, is a typical introverted shut-in. She gets anxiety over almost every situation involving leaving her house, so naturally, she picks up learning the guitar. Because guitar equals cool, and cool equals everyone loving you, and everyone loving you equals fortune, fame, and friends. And after becoming a niche micro-celebrity online as Guitar Hero, Bocce learns the hard way that she still has to, talk to people in order to make friends. Enter in the rest of our lovely band of misfits. Nichika is the drummer and leader by default of the soon-to-be Kisoku band. Ro is the bassist and cool weirdo who is terrible with money, and Kita is the lead singer and overall ray of sunshine of the group. They all struggle as musicians in their own special way, but come together to overcome each hurdle in front of them. These four characters are where we start to see why this show is so great.
じゃあ頑張ろう楽しもうせーの
As a group, Kisoku Band represents a balance of various personalities and anxieties. Bocce got her nickname because Hitori is her first name, and Hitori Bocce can mean lonely or isolated, which, let's be honest, is putting it mildly for poor Goto. So Bocce is our typical representation for anxiety. She's always putting herself down, unable to communicate, has various coping mechanisms, and prefers the indoors. Enter her opposite counterpart and classmate, Kita-chan, who is a beam of light but still has her own anxieties. Kita is someone who is constantly cheerful and social, always hangs out with her friends, posts on social media, and wants to be involved in everything. But her anxieties are fueled by her extroverted nature. She doesn't want to let people down or be a burden, so she constantly says yes to things without thinking and just deals with the consequences. Both Bocce and Kita are two sides of the same coin. The only difference is one is introverted and one is extroverted. So to balance out these two, we have our remaining two band members, Ro and Nichika. Let's start with Ro, who is the balance for Kita. Ro is a calm and cool personality that does whatever she deems as fun, regardless of her image with other people. She enjoys being called weird, will tease others for the fun of it, and knows how to get away with things. She is ultimately comfortable in her own skin and doesn't let others influence her, but this also tends to make her lazy and unreliable. This is why the running joke of Kita being in love with her makes sense, because they complement their weaknesses. That leaves Nichika to balance out Bocce, who is sort of the glue of the whole band. She is sweet and outgoing, but always takes everyone's feelings into account when doing anything. She knows everyone the best, which usually leads her to being the most supportive of her friends. Especially Bocce, who she looks up to after finding out she is Guitar Hero, and reassures Bocce that she is the true leader that this band needed. All four of these personalities occupy their own space, but each can interact with each other in various ways due to the balance. For example, episode 4 has our two introverts together. This interaction leads to Bocce overcoming her fear of songwriting due to Ro's reassurance that being awkward and weird is kind of what makes them a good band. Or how in episode 10, Kita feels horrible for ignoring Bocce's feelings by signing up the band for the school festival, only to have Bocce not only thank her for going through with it, but also creating a scenario where both can overcome their anxieties of performing and letting others down. It is this kind of character depth and balance that create a show that is capable of telling any story no matter who is on screen with who. And that is only really the beginning of what makes this series Anime of the Year material, because now we get to talk about the real depth of the show, the animation.
メンバー個人のアカウントあった方がいいと思うし。お父さん、私がアカウントなんて持ったら。
Bocce The Rock is an adaptation that really stands out in a unique category. At its core, it is a slice of life about a band of high school girls that crank out hilarious visuals about a certain member's anxieties. But surprisingly, the manga it is pulling from is actually a lot simpler than that. You see, Bocce The Rock is written in what is called a 4-koma manga style, which means that most of it is written in a 4-strip format containing the punchline and the joke, meaning that there are no large panels or detailed images of most of what we see from the anime. The humor is still there, but the animators had to find a way to create a connective story that delivered on the manga's concepts. So, what did they do? Oh, only a showcase of the greatest references and animation styles of the past 5 years. I mean, we get a full spectrum of style from claymation to realism, deconstruction, live action, and just so many more. These choices allow for some of the funniest visual gags ever seen in the genre and allow for a creative way to push the story in any direction. One of my favorite examples is in episode 5, where Goto can't hold in her performance anxiety, and suddenly the dam breaks as a result.
北さん、すみません。後藤さん？後藤さん！
Or how in episode 7, just mentioning the dreaded sports festival debauchery causes her head to fill with a claymation zoetrope that turns her into a pile of goo.
約1ヶ月、体育祭のためだけに生きることを強いられる拷問行為。みんなは一人のために。後藤さん、溶けちゃいましたね。今日暑いからね。
And even though it is quote-unquote the same joke of being overwhelmed by anxiety, it never stops being funny. Add on the silly amount of references to prior anime like Neon Genesis Evangelion, Dragon Ball Z, Fooly Cooly, Fist of the North Star, Ashita no Joe, and yes, even a clever tip of the hat to its unofficial big sister, K-On! All of these combined create a show that is impossible to predict what is going to happen next. Each new joke is represented by its own unique animation that you can't help but laugh out loud to every single time. And that is without even mentioning the amazing decisions behind shot composition, use of camera angles, and backgrounds. Most shots take place in ultra-realistic settings, and some of them are based off of real places around Japan. Camera angles always find ways to frame Bocce in isolation even though there are multiple people in a room. We even see perspective shifts between the band's performances to give it a more dynamic feel. All of these things, the jokes, the camera angles, and the backgrounds, have to be deliberately done in order to capture more emotion from its audience. The fact that all of these things work together every single episode is a testament to how great a series this actually is. This isn't just some overreaction by the fans based off of recency bias. This is genuine praise for its art and direction. But is this enough to get it Anime of the Year? At the end of the day, Bocce The Rock has a humongous hill to climb. The last time a non-action anime series was actually picked for Anime of the Year was back in 2017 with Yuri on Ice. Most likely, people will gravitate towards shows like Chainsaw Man, Spy Family, and Cyberpunk Edgerunners as their choices because those are traditionally the first things you think of when hearing Anime of the Year. But I do believe our favorite pink rocker deserves to contend with these big names. It tells a very real story that everyone can relate to somehow, whether it's chasing a dream, overcoming personal struggles, or simply just the embarrassment of going through high school. Each scene is filled with so much personality that it is almost impossible to walk away from the screen once an episode has started. The animators put in so much love and effort to make this series good when they really didn't need to, and I know that even if it doesn't win Anime of the Year, I will still vote for it, because if anyone can beat the odds and overcome an impossible task, it is Bocce The Rock. Or we'll all just lock ourselves in our closets and eagerly await season 2. Wait, is the only reason I like this so much because I'm also a shut-in YouTuber with no friends and social anxiety? Man, what a great way to end this year. I mean, there's just so many good anime from 2022 that just have a shot at winning. We got Kaguya-sama, Summertime Rendering, Call of the Night, Kaguya-sama, My Dress Up Darling, Kaguya-sama. I mean, all great.